Blazers did that back on April 9th of 2023. Wow, 27. But the Celtics tonight on fire from downtown. Our next broadcast is going to come up on Friday as the Portland Trailblazers finish out the 7-game road trip. They'll be in Oklahoma City to meet the Thunder. Tip-off will be at 5. Travis Demers will have the call for you across the Trailblazers audio network, and I'll have the Trailblazer pregame show starting at 4. Be sure to stay tuned to our flagship station, 620 Rip City Radio here in Portland. We're coming up in just a couple of moments. You can hear the fifth quarter with Brendan Slaughter. Our final score tonight from TD Garden in Boston, the Celtics over the Blazers 128-118. For the captain, Rich Patterson, I'm Chad Doing. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you on Friday.
You've been listening to the Trailblazers postgame show on the Trailblazers Audio Network.
This has been Portland Trailblazers basketball. Wherever you may be, good night, everybody.
It's time for the fifth quarter with Brendan Slaughter. The fifth quarter is presented by Coors Light, Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. 620 Rip City Radio, your home of the Portland Trailblazers.
And welcoming you into the fifth quarter, this is Brendan Slaughter coming to you following Portland's 128-118 loss to the Boston Celtics out at TD Garden. Thanks for tuning in to the fifth quarter. You can join the conversation, 503-248-0620 if you've got thoughts on this matchup. Well, the game definitely didn't go quite the way that we thought it was going to go, in the sense that Boston was missing some big pieces. We thought they might be a little shorthanded, but nevertheless, they come out and just are on fire, ripping the nets from three, and we'll be diving into the whole game throughout this fifth quarter. But again, thanks for tuning in to the fifth quarter. Again, Brendan Slaughter hosting with you tonight as we're breaking down the 128-118 loss to the Celtics. Let's go ahead and start in the first quarter, and it was a quarter that was very back and forth. And, you featured 10 lead changes in the first 8 minutes. The Blazers led 10-8 early. Danny Avdija with an early 6 points. And the Blazers were really, matching Boston stride for stride. And they actually led, 20-16 with under 3. And, then we kind of started to see Boston's three-point shooting really start to take the next level. Derek White hits a big three. Simons had a step-back answer. It was 26-25 with a minute left in the first. White hits another three. That'll be a common theme for tonight, folks. Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. Holy cow. We'll have to talk about those two guys, but continuing on, Blazers were just 2 of 10 from three in the first. The Celtics were 6 of 15. That determined to be a factor for the rest of the game that would continue to go on. 12 from Pritchard, all from threes in the first. Portland side in the first, 7 from Simons, 7 from Scoot. And Boston took that first quarter 31-26, but nevertheless, you found yourself, down by 5 on the road, and the Blazers were right there within striking distance, trailing by 5. Portland then, to open the second quarter, actually gets it all the way down to 1 point. They open with 2 straight buckets, make it 31-30 with 10 left in the second. But then the Celtics, they just keep hitting threes. Sam Hauser hits a three to push it to 38-32. Horford hits a three. Then we see Jabari Walker start to hit his first three. And again, just back and forth, the Blazers keeping good pace. Shaedon Sharpe hit a three to make it 41-40. Jabari Walker made a three to give the Blazers the lead, go to 43-41, and that was part of a 9-0 Blazer run. So even as late or as early as the second quarter, you saw the Blazers start to take, control of this game a little bit. When the Celtics weren't always on fire from three in this game, again, they're going to hoist up a lot of attempts. 54 shots from the Celtics tonight from three. They made 23, but, those other ones are misses, obviously, and opportunities for the Blazers. So there were chances for them to get back into this game. I think one of the more consequential moments of this game was when Tumani Kamara was called for his third foul on a play that was originally ruled a charge on Jaylen Brown. And then, over video review was overturned, and it was Tumani who picked up that third foul. I think that kind of proved to be, sizable anytime that you have to put Tumani back on the bench and, all those things. And, Tumani's been great at it. But, that was just one of those real tough calls that I think came at a decently crucial point. But going back to what we said earlier, Blazers 32% shooting in the first. They were much better in the second, up over 50%, and were, able to kind of go stride for stride there with the Celtics. The Blazers were on a 15-4 run until Derek White hit a three. Again, very common theme is every time the Blazers would kind of start to build out their lead a little bit in that second quarter, because there was a moment when they led in the second quarter, and it looked like, hey, they can keep this close or take a lead into halftime. Then Boston went on a big run. Boston tied it up at 51 with 4 minutes left. Derek White at this point is already on fire if he wasn't before. 54-53 after Pritchard hit his fifth three. You might think, wow, 5 threes for Peyton Pritchard. That's solid for a game, not a half. More on that later. And then Derek White rips another triple, 57-53. Pritchard hits an and one, and all of a sudden it's 63-53. That's a 9-0 run for the Celtics. Just right before the half, they're able to extend it to an 11-0 run before Denny Avdia snapped it with a layup. And ultimately, that little spurt from the Celtics just in those last 4 minutes of the second quarter really gave them the cushion they needed to kind of be much more aggressive in this. And again, they led 66-55 at the half. They were aggressive in those final few minutes. They went on a 24-9 run to end the half. And credit later, we'll obviously be talking a little bit later as the Blazers, were able to get back into this game late and actually force, Boston to sweat a little bit with a strong fourth quarter. This run that Boston was able to go into halftime with, I think really kind of built them their lead that they were kind of able to hang on and cushion on for this contest. Sitting at halftime, Derek White had 24 points and 6 made threes. Peyton Pritchard had 18 points and 5 made threes. As we mentioned, Tumani Kamara had 3 fouls. Scoot as well had 4 fouls, so some foul trouble for the Blazers. In the first half, the Celtics were able to double up the Blazers on threes, 13-6, and you look at the 11-point margin and how they really shot the same. There weren't a big free throw disparity. It really was just the difference being three-pointers in this. And ultimately, it was close rebounding battle. Celtics led 27-23 at the half. Sharp and Scoot each had 11 each at the half. Denny with 10, Simons 9, and Jabari Walker with 8. There were 15 lead changes in that first half. And I think that really shows kind of how this game kind of took a turn, and the Celtics were kind of able to, really outshoot the Blazers in this matchup. And, at the same token, I got to give the Blazers credit because, they battled in this one. It would have been, obviously you could tell throughout this game, Boston was daring Portland to play their game because, again, you look at the numbers and the stats. If you're Portland, you probably don't want to get into a 3-point shooting contest with the best shooting team in the NBA. And, that's what you could tell the Celtics were trying to do to the Blazers, and they were kind of able to get them sped up and kind of wanting to take threes too. Didn't take nearly as many as Boston, but when you look, Boston took 54 threes. Blazers took 43s. So I think that was, still kind of playing their game a little bit. And, like I said before, the Celtics, led 66-55 at the half. Coming into the third quarters where they did their most damage tonight. Again, very, very, that 11-point margin, they were able to balloon that even more entering the fourth as, the Celtics outscored the Blazers 36-27 in that third quarter. They scored the first 5 points, including yet another 3 from Peyton Pritchard. Boston started the third on a 10-5 run. They pushed that lead to 16, and you blink, and they put so much pressure on your defense. I mean, you're talking about some of the great 3-point shooting teams we've seen, most notably, the Warriors and Rockets of, several years ago. And, this Celtic team obviously built much differently, but they can really let it rip from 3. And, you could obviously see that tonight as they nailed, 23. And as Chad Dewing mentioned on the postgame, not the most 3-pointers ever scored against the Blazers. The Golden State Warriors still have that honor. But nevertheless, 23 is a lot of threes. And that's just going to put a lot of pressure on, on the other side of the ball for you to be nearly perfect offensively because, again, the Blazers were pretty good in this game with the exception of just allowing a few more threes to Boston at certain times. Again, we mentioned so much pressure they put on your defense, even without Tatum, Porzingis, Jrue Holiday. I mean, you see a matchup like this with how well the Blazers had been playing recently, and you think 128, 118, man, the Blazers played okay, but they must have kept Tatum and those guys in check. And I think it just speaks to Boston's championship pedigree that when several of their big guns are out, they're able to kind of pick up the slack. And you see Pritchard and Jaylen Brown and Derek White all play almost 40 minutes tonight. I mean, Al Horford putting in, 31 minutes at, 38 years old. I mean, Big Al, man. I mean, he continues to turn back the clock too, and also, makes an impact on both ends of the floor. So the Celtics are just tough. And, why we came into this game, we talked Sean Highkin pregame about how, the Blazers could have an opportunity in this game with some of the injuries. I don't think it was so much in this game like what we talked about was the worst case scenario of like, letting your guard down without those guys. I mean, I think the Blazers knew that Derek White and Peyton Pritchard could fill it up. I mean, you have to look at Peyton Pritchard. I think some of his highest scoring outputs against an individual team or against the Trailblazers, he always seems to have, something in his bag for, whenever he plays the Trailblazers. And considering he's Westland's finest, I wouldn't doubt that Peyton Pritchard, likes to have his best stuff when he plays the Blazers, both in Portland and in Boston. But nevertheless, like we said, just so much pressure on your defense. Derek White hit another bucket in the third quarter to push it to an 18-point lead before Jabari Walker hit a three. And, Jabari Walker hit his third three of the game. It goes to 78-63. And you're like, okay, Portland just needs a stop or two to get right back in this game. Then White hits another three, and that was his seventh. It matched a season high. So every time it seemed like, wow, the Blazers are making some good plays. They're getting this. The Celtics just had another answer. Simons had back-to-back buckets to make it 81-65 Celtics. Then Pritchard hit his 7th three to push it back to 17. Jabari Walker hits another three. And again, just this back and forth, almost like a tennis match as the Blazers are trying to, trim this deficit. And again, Pritchard gets a season-high 8 threes. They lead 87-70. Pritchard hits a couple more foul shots to take push that lead back out to 17. Jabari ends up going 7 for 7 from the floor before he misses his first bucket, and including 6 of 6 from three. So that was mightily impressive from Jabari Walker tonight. I mean, we'll be handing out game balls later in the show, and I think Jabari Walker could absolutely be in contention for that. I mean, it was so much fun to see and listen to Travis Demers and the call tonight when Jabari Walker kept hitting those threes. An unreal shooting performance for him, to have that much success and be in the final stat line, 8 of 9, 6 of 6 from three, 6 boards and 22 points. I mean, that's just awesome for Jabari. So, even in a losing effort, you still like to see that from Jabari. And, then, again, we just go back to the back and forth nature. After Jabari hit that three, Blazers trail by just 14, and they kind of seem to be, like we said, playing into Boston's three-point party. A lot of attempts, trying to match the Celtics from three. Pritchard helped, push the lead to 96-77. He with his 31st point of the night off the bench. He ended up pushing that to 37, and his 10th made three as the Celtics led 102-80 before Jabari Walker hits another three. And again, he was 6 of 6 from three, and he remained perfect from three, and just went 8 of 9 from the floor. And bottom line, Celtics take a 102-82 lead after three quarters, and Celtics took the third quarter 30-27. Getting into the fourth and final period, the Celtics matched their largest lead of the night at 104-82. And again, this is something where you would have thought that based on, the young Trailblazers that maybe we'd seen in the past, that, maybe they would just kind of, let this one go a little bit as the Celtics kind of started to open it up. But no, this Trailblazer team fought, and they made the Celtics sweat to get back into this game. And, again, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard continued to do their thing, hitting just ridiculous shots after shots. But then, it started to turn, as the fourth quarter really started to wind down. Sharp was he made a three to bury, or said he buried a three to make it 116-103. The Blazers did not quit, and then again went down to 118-105 after Tumani Kamara nails a pair at the line. And bottom line, the Blazers go on a 21-11 run to really get themselves back into the game in the fourth quarter. And I mentioned earlier, with the Celtics taking so many shots from three, there will always be opportunities to get out and get points when they say miss 2 or 3 in a row. And I think you kind of saw a little bit of that in the fourth. They weren't quite exactly where they wanted to be as far as, being able to match what the Celtics were doing. But, essentially, I think, Portland was really able to fight their way back into this game. They made it close. It was 122-110 after Simons made a 3. Tumani made a 3 to make it 122-113. They trailed by as many as 25 points, and now the Blazers trail by just 9. So you have to give them credit for fighting back into this game and really, taking it on the chin as like a challenge to get back into this context, and the fight, right? So ultimately, Jaylen Brown hit a shot to push it back to 11. Simons got fouled on a three-pointer as well as a flagrant. After that situation, it was 124-116. It was 8 points. Simons had a 3 that could have made it a 5-point game. It went off, and that was pretty much ultimately the end of this contest. And ultimately, Anthony Simons, finished with 30 points. And the Celtics just made enough big plays down the stretch to still, pull out the win. Anthony Simons, had some big shots. Shaedon Sharpe had some big shots. Toumani Camara, too. Jabari Walker as well. Celtics got some key offensive rebounds down the stretch. And, ultimately the difference in this game was the Celtics' ability to shoot from 3. I mean, both teams shot. Actually, the Blazers outshot the Celtics. They hit 45 of 90. Celtics went 45 of 97. But the difference in this game was the 3-point shot. So we'll be diving a little bit more into the team stats. We'll go ahead and take our first break here on the fifth quarter. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You've got the fifth quarter with Brendan Slaughter.
Henderson pushes with some tempo, now slows it down, crosses over, fouled, and they count the basket. And the Blazers lead it by 5. The rebound is into the hands of Sharp. Sharp will push the other way. Brown out on the perimeter on him. Here's Sharp with the drive to the rim, lays it up, it's good. And the Blazers have their largest lead of 4, 20-16, 3:18 to play. 8-0 Trailblazers run. They trailed by 4, now they lead it by 4.
Welcoming you back into the fifth quarter where Portland has fallen to Boston 128-118. Thanks for tuning in here to the fifth quarter. Brendan Slaughter filling in for Chris Burkhardt, who has jumped in on the YouTube chat along with many others. And a couple quick highlights out of that. Han in King City writes, the end of the second quarter derailed the game. And, I think it was tough. Boston went on that massive run to close the second. And if it had been a little bit closer at the half, maybe they're not able to push it out to that third quarter lead that then Portland had to, chip away at throughout the course of the fourth. So I definitely agree. And yeah, I mean, Han, at the same token, Jabari did look a little like Steph Curry tonight. You got to give credit to what Jabari was able to do tonight. I mean, to go perfect from beyond the arc. I mean, that's not necessarily his game. He's shown capable of hitting threes in the past, but to have a performance like that was pretty darn cool for Jabari Walker. And again, going back to some of the standout box scores from tonight, as we mentioned on the Blazers side of things, Anthony Simons led the way with 30 points. He just went 3 of 10 from 3, but was 12 of 21 from the field. He also added in 6 assists. Beyond him, it was Shaedon Sharp with 25. He went 3 of 7 from beyond the arc, 11-18 from the field. 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. Another game where you're seeing Shea start to get more rebounds. I really like to see that from a guard. And, he had a double-double with rebounds last game. To have another group of rebounds tonight was nice to see as well. Behind him, you got Jabari Walker, as we mentioned, with his 22 points, 8 of 9 from the floor, 6 of 6 from beyond the arc, also chipped in 6 boards. Behind those guys, you had Scoot Henderson with 13 points off the bench. He also chipped in 4 assists and 2 rebounds, but he also had 6 fouls in this game, and that obviously is tough for the young Scoot. Donovan Clingan as well only plays 20 minutes. He goes 1 of 3, just 2 points. 7 rebounds in this one for Kling Kong, and then Denny Avdia and Tumani Kamara with 12 points apiece and 6 rebounds for Denny, 4 rebounds for Tumani. Chauncey Billups did say after the game that Denny kind of retweaked that quad injury that he had earlier this trip. He, we'll have to keep an eye on his status, but that's definitely something to monitor with Denny moving forward. Over to the Celtics side of things, I don't know, for those of you who are listening at home, I mean, this box score is almost unbelievable when you look at it. I mean, if you had told me going into tonight's game that Jason Tatum would be out, Kristaps Porzingis would be out, and Jrue Holiday would be out, and it would be Peyton Pritchard and Derek White who combined for 43 points from Pritchard and 41 from Derek White. I mean, that's just insane. I mean, again, being a native Oregonian myself, I'm a little impartial towards seeing Peyton Pritchard, ball outs, pride of West Lynn, and that's not tough or not great for Rip City tonight, but followed his career for a while, and selfishly, Mike, he's decent to see, a local product, have an outburst like that and have the kind of impact off the bench he's having this year. And then Derek White, I mean, same thing, 9 threes to Peyton's 10, and this was perhaps the most shocking statistic that I saw. They were the first Boston Celtic teammates with 40 points each. How does that happen? I mean, just not Larry Bird and Kevin McHale, not Larry Bird and Dennis Johnson, not, Bill Russell and Bob Cousy, which is just incredible to me, to see that come out of Boston, such a historical franchise, have the first Celtic teammates to have 40 or more each in a game. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620. Let's go head out to Pat in Hermiston. Pat, welcome to the fifth quarter. What's on your mind?
Well, I've had this thought for a while, but I think the difference between Portland and teams like Boston and Cleveland and even Denver is just a matter of maturity. And those teams are experienced, and they're in a culture where they just execute that much better. Portland's getting a lot closer, but what that means is if you watch Boston, their three-pointers are different. They poke, they probe, they pass, and even though Portland didn't do that bad of a job of covering, they're just that much more open. And what happens is Portland's taking the ball out of the net. Boston's defense is set. You go down there, you miss a shot, you go back, and you're on your heels. Your matchups aren't clean, and that's how those teams just make those runs that make it so hard for these young guys. But man, they're getting better. I was around in '77 when I was in the 7th grade.
Wow.
And what I remember about that team was each series in the playoffs they got better, because that was the youngest team to ever win a championship.
Right.
You know, and I see Chauncey kind of pulling these guys up and making them better. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I think you made some great points there, Pat, and I appreciate the phone call, especially all the way out from Hermiston, my man. Spent some time out in Hermiston, good neck of the Oregonian woods out there. You know, it's true. I mean, I think, you know, these games against Cleveland and Boston, I think, you know, they're very different, right? Cleveland was right there for the taking, and I think, you know, Portland's going to, you know, realize they maybe let one slip away here. This Boston game, maybe you thought it was, and myself as well, thought it was maybe a little bit more for the taking with the guys out, but then you just see that Boston has this championship pedigree, and I get your point too, Pat, because you look at it and you really, outside of Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, there's not another guy on the roster or in the box score where you're like, man, he just really cooked us. I mean, you're looking at Jaylen Brown. He goes 7 of 23, 0 of 4 from beyond the three-point line. It was really just what Derek White and Peyton Pritchard could do. I think that stretch in the second quarter, you know, when Tumani was out of the game and, you know, wasn't able to, you know, kind of be the Blazers, you know, enforcer. I think that was kind of sizable. You know, Scoot Henderson picks up, I believe, foul number 4, you know, before the end of the second quarter. And I go back to what we said earlier. I think the end of that second quarter really just was a tough spurt for the Blazers, and it kind of put them behind the 8 ball, even though they were still able to fight back. And, you know, I go back to, you know, what I was talking about with Sean Hyken earlier in Blazers game day. There would have been times, not even that long ago, the Blazers, you know, going into the fourth, what they were down on the road would have been like, all right, it's not our night. Let's get ready for the next one. And, you know, to see them really put some pressure on Boston, make Boston call some late timeouts, need to hit a few shots. And, you know, when the Blazers were down 8, if Anthony Simons had hit that 3 to push it to 5, I mean, you know, all bets were off for there, and it could have been right there. So I think that's a good point. And, you know, your point on the culture too, I think Boston's ability to hit the 3, it reminds me of the Warriors, you know, in their prime when they had, you know, Durant, Curry, and Clay, and, you know, just all those guys who could just, you know, light it up, and guys off the bench too. And Joe Mazzulla's, you know, he there's a reason Boston leads the NBA in 3-point attempted per game. Like, he knows, like, you know, 3's worth a lot more than 2's, and if you got guys who can stroke it like that, why not? So, you know, that's definitely an impressive mark from Boston there. If you're, we'll get back to the phones in just a minute. I want to make sure to check in on a couple other things with this box score. As we mentioned, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard led the way for the Celtics. Al Horford also chipped in 12 points, and mentioned it earlier, man. Al Horford at age 38 years old. I mean, you never want to, you know, I mean, LeBron exists in the league, right? So you never want to limit a guy by age. But outside of LeBron, there aren't a lot of guys who are pushing that 4-0 and are still, like, not only contributing, but starting for a championship level team in Horford in this game. So, you know, you almost have to kind of tip your cap a little bit at the Celtics, because I thought the Blazers played a pretty good game. Boston just was on fire from beyond the arc, and it showed. And, you know, you go into the box score and the team stats, and it really shows. You know, the Blazers in this game outshot the Celtics from the field 50% to 46, but it was those 3-pointers. 16 threes for the Blazers, 23 threes for the Celtics. And, you know, you add up those 7 extra 3-pointers, that's an extra 21 points in this matchup. And you take those away, or even take half of them away, and the game is definitely quite different. Blazers go 12 of 17 from the line, Celtics 15 of 17. Celtics won the rebounding battle, 53-39. Most notably, this is where the Celtics did most of their damage, folks. 18 offensive boards to 8 for Portland. And I think, You talked about those O boards late that kind of put the Blazers, comeback hopes behind the eight ball. I think that was, tougher in this game. Assists were relatively the same, 24 for Boston, 19 for Portland. Not a ton of steals, just 4 for the Blazers, 5 for the Celtics. And turnovers, a relatively clean game, 10 for the Celtics, 8 for the Blazers. Each team had about the same, 13 and 12 points off turnovers. And then fast break points, just 12 to 10 in favor of the Blazers, 2 points in the paint, 40 to 36 in favor of the Blazers. And, Boston's largest lead was 25, Portland's was 6. So, the Blazers had their moments in this game. And I think, if you really take away that onslaught that the Celtics had from beyond the arc, it's a truly different ball game. And, I think that's, honestly, it's kind of simple to look at one stat and see what the difference is in this game. And I think you look at three-pointers and you look at how incredible Derek White and Peyton Pritchard were in this contest. So, sometimes you just got to tip your cap and say, they were balling on the other side of the floor. And, I don't think the Blazers can hang their hats too much about this. It just had a really tough, stretch to close out the end of the second and then not quite, turning on the gas in the third. And I think that ultimately just, put the Blazers a little behind the eight ball in this matchup. Let's go ahead and head back out to the phones. Victor what's going on, man? Appreciate the call.
Hi, thank you for your time. I have to tell you a couple of things that you won't believe. You said about the Pritchard, out of Oregon or Portland. I didn't know about that. And also we have Eubank from Portland, Tarleton, Portland. And maybe we have, I don't know about Klay Thompson, whether he was from Portland. You think
Right.
he was from Oregon?
Yeah, add in Kevin Love too. Yeah, there's been some hoopers that have come through Portland for sure.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you something you won't believe. In overseas, in Turkey and those kind of countries, if a player from your area goes to another team who they play really good and they beat and they come back and they beat your home team, 2 things can happen. Whether the fans, they don't go to that game, that's number one, which is less common. But the other thing is the fans, say in Turkey, if the Pritchard was playing and beat your own team, they're going to boo him. They're going to boo him all the time, not only one time. They're going to boo him, like 40 minutes. They're going to boo him. I know the culture is, I was going to tell you about the culture difference between America and other countries, because I know that for sure. So what I'm saying is, I'm really jealous, as a personal, I'm not going to boo the, I'm outside. I'm not going to boo the Pritchard, but I'm really jealous because the Portland should, they stole this, it's kind of a stealing. They are stealing these players from Portland, from Oregon. It's obvious. Why Pritchard, how in the world Pritchard got end up in the Celtics? Anybody has answer to that? How end up in the Celtics? That's one of the questions. The other thing I want to tell you, my friend, is the offense Blazer they shot enough to get within 8 points, but the defense was a problem. I didn't like the Duop Reed. I didn't like his game. Duop Reed, he's a below average, I think, and shows in this game. And also our defense, the Clinton, well, he's just a freshman. We cannot expect that he's gonna have 20 rebounds and so on. You said we didn't have a good offensive rebounds. So what I'm saying, what do you think? You think our the Blazer problem is really defense? Against a really high caliber team, or
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call, Victor. It's tough because being native Oregonian myself, and having my other job, covering some Oregon State stuff, and just being in the area, I was very, very familiar with Peyton Pritchard. Very familiar with him coming out of West Lynn. The high level recruit that he was, and then obviously starring at Oregon. And I'll be honest, I knew that Peyton Pritchard had really good, solid point guard skills. And it's this, you saw what he was able to do with Oregon, coming in as a freshman with that team and, just hitting the ground running. And then by the time he was done, he was, arguably their leader for Dana Altman's squad. So it's tough. There have been a couple, players that have played college basketball for Oregon recently where I'm like, man, they'd make a great Blazer. And that stuff just kind of happens, right? You're one team and, you never know how drafts go and all those things. And yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of people that would like to see, Peyton in the red and black as opposed to all the way across the country, being right here from, the PNW himself. But I think, some Blazer fans could be frustrated, and I'm obviously not the world's biggest Oregon fan, but I gotta give credit. What he did tonight was beyond impressive. He's personally gunning for the most 3-pointers off the bench in NBA history. I mean, if he keeps doing this, he's gonna get it. So that's really cool to see. And then, your second part, Victor, about the defense. I mean, I don't know if you can look at a game like this and, start to blame the Blazers defense a ton. I know, you watch the game and, I remember there were several plays where Pritchard was able to probe into the lane and kick it out to an open shooter. And I just think the Celtics are really good at what they do. And, the Blazers were right there for part of this contest. I think you can kind of really trim it down to that second quarter and and then the start of the third a little bit where the Celtics were kind of able to do what they wanted. You take away that run Boston had to close out the second. Maybe it's a 3-point game or a 5-point game, or maybe it's tied, right? Blazers led at one point in the second quarter. I think it would have turned out a whole lot differently. But, I don't know if this is a game where I necessarily would be too critical of Portland's defense because, Boston is the best. They're the best in the NBA at shooting three. This is what they do. And while, it's frustrating to look and go, it was still a loss without, Tatum, Porzingis, and Drew Holiday in this one, that's just balls sometimes. And I think, when you have two historical performances like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, again, I just have to say it again for anybody listening. First Celtic teammates to have 40 or more each in a game. Like, not Larry Bird, not Kevin McHale, not, Bill Walton. I mean, not any of these stars Boston have had, throughout their years. So I think that just kind of shows, sometimes with a performance like that, and Chauncey said a little bit in the postgame, we'll be hearing from him here in a little bit, where he's like, they asked him, like, you ever seen that? And someone from the media pool is like, it's first time ever. And you're like, well, there you go. So sometimes you just kind of got to put your hands up a little bit and be like, they had a great night. And, Portland, his defense probably could have been a little bit tighter, could have been a little sharper at those key moments, as we mentioned, in parts of the third and second quarter. But you can't be too upset when the Blazers fought themselves back into this game and were, nearly right there. So, lots of likes still from the Trailblazers. I appreciate the phone calls from Victor, absolutely. And for anyone else who wants to join the conversation, 503-248-0620. We'll go ahead and take a break here on the fifth quarter. When we come back, we'll be headed to the coach's corner. Also be handing out a game ball and then putting a bow tie on this post game. You've got the fifth quarter with Brendan Slaughter following Portland's 128-118 loss.
for this team, and you talk about, the shot making that they have and the ball movement that they have. It's really elite. And then you go out there and you say, all right, they're going to make some shots. Don't get discouraged. Hang in there. Just hang in. And we did that. I thought our guys did a really good job of that. Came down, there was a lot of rebounds out there that we just couldn't get. Some of them were bad bounces. Some of them, they just outworked us for it. But, man, I'm so proud of these dudes for just scrapping and hanging in. I really am.
You mentioned not getting discouraged. How hard is that when two guys on the other team are just shooting legs out?
Yeah. Well, it's really hard, because it's not like they're shooting wide open shots. They're shooting tough shots, contested shots, making them, I've been on both sides of that coin, sometimes you're shooting and it feels like whatever you do, it can't stop you. But we hung in, man. We really did. We had so many guys play well in the game.
Well, Jabari came in. He was why'd you make it this shooting?
Yeah, it was. We needed every one of them. I thought Jabari was really good. His shooting was big time today. Could miss as well. So we did a good job of continuing to get him the ball. Once we find a guy that can make some shots during the night, he did a really good job of it. Thought he did a good job defensively too. In the game. We're playing a lot of lineups and combinations that we don't usually play, so it's first time for some of these combinations, and I thought we did a good job with it.
Any update on Denny?
No, it was the same quad, contusion. So, yeah, nothing since then, though.
Coach, you've been around the league a long time. Have you seen something like that from two teammates like Pritchard and White tonight?
Yeah, I haven't seen that, man. I haven't been a part of a game like that. I've seen some guys really get hot, catch fire, but two guys like that, I haven't seen it. I would be interested to know how many times two guys have made at least 9 threes in a game. If it's ever happened, I'm not sure. Is this the first time? Yeah, so no, I haven't. None of us have seen that.
Coach, you talk about you being proud of the way they performed. Do you feel like the players feel that? I know they're probably upset about losing the game.
Yeah.
They are, but do you get the sense that they can at least see no, we stuck with it. We did what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
We shouldn't hang our heads.
I'm being in that locker room just a few minutes ago. I love it because they're pissed.
Yeah.
They are, and I want them to be. But I also want them to understand that that's the NBA champions. And they caught fire on us tonight. It wasn't because we didn't play hard or we weren't prepared. It just happens like that sometimes. But they're pissed, But they also know how hard they fought and hung in there. And we were a couple breaks away in that fourth quarter from it getting tricky, And so we gave ourselves a chance. Yeah, I thought Tu did a good job in the game. Struggled shooting, struggled shooting early on. He had a couple looks that he usually knocks down and, didn't knock them down tonight. But I thought defensively he was good. His foul trouble hurt us, in the first half. We had to go with some different combinations because he was in foul trouble. But that hurt us. When he picked up that first foul with a minute into the game, I was sitting there at that time saying, that's going to hurt us. Because he's always aggressive. He's uber aggressive. And obviously he's guarding the best player on the other side of the ball. They know he picked up a foul, so they're going to try to attack him. So his foul trouble hurt us in the game. But, as usual, I thought Tu played a good, sound, all-around game.
That was Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups following the 128-118 loss to Boston. And, I think, you heard Chauncey kind of break down the game. They're pretty well as far as, why the Blazers, weren't able to get over the top in this game. And I think still the most standout part of that is, talking about Pritchard and White. And, it may sound like a broken record, folks, but again, not Larry Bird and Kevin McHale, not, Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, but Peyton Pritchard and Derek White, who have the first Celtic teammates go 40+. And I think, you kind of just have to, like I said earlier, take a step back and be like, well, man, they were just really ripping it. 19 combined threes between those two guys. They combined for 84 points. I mean, it's history. He's the first Celtic with 40, or Pritchard, first Celtic with 40 points and 10 three-pointers made, or three-pointers made in a game. And he's the third player ever with 40 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 three-point makes, joining, get ready for this, folks, James Harden and Damian Lillard. So, again, just the company that Peyton Pritchard put himself in. Again, being the local Westland product, I almost got to tip my cap to him. I mean, native Oregonian, making good on himself out in Boston. So you definitely like to see it. And I think, Chauncey, like he was said too, the guys were definitely, a little upset, and understandably, this is a game that on paper coming in, you could have maybe gotten, but, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard had a historical performance. That happens from time to time. And, you kind of just got to shake it off and attack the next one. And, the road doesn't get any easier, with the Oklahoma City Thunder due, up next. But, nevertheless, Portland still finds himself, 4 games out of the 10 seed and just a game and a half out of the 11 seed. So, Dallas lost 3 in a row. Phoenix, still kind of holding patterns. So while we said earlier, the Blazers did need to kind of start to get a marquee win. The road trip now sits at 4-2, and you kind of wanted that marquee win. An opportunity still presents itself, with the Thunder coming up. So, still could be something there. But nevertheless, Portland falls to Boston 128-118. Let's go ahead and hand out some game balls. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear for me who's getting the game ball in this one. I'm not going to cheat like I normally do and give out multiple. We're just going to say game ball, and I'm giving it to Jabari Walker in this one. Might even be one that, despite the loss, you might just want to see, hey, can I take that nice Spalding ball home with me? He goes 8 of 9. I'm not sure, Jabari Walker might be telling his kids, years and years, from now, yeah, I went 6 for 6 against Boston from three-point line in the Garden, because it's just, it's kind of one of those really rare and cool moments. So got to get the game ball, Jabari. He goes 8 of 9, 6 of 6 from beyond the arc. And again, that also chimes in 6 rebounds, and just love to see it from Jabari Walker. Blazers fall 128-18 to the Celtics out in Boston. Well, that'll go ahead and wrap it up here for the 5th quarter. We will be back on Friday as the Blazers will face Oklahoma City in Oklahoma. Tip-off will be at 4 o'clock. I will have game day at 2 o'clock on your home of the Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Chad Dewing will have the network pregame at 3, and Travis Demers call at 4 o'clock. Big thanks to Rip City Radio and Mike Shacker for keeping us on air and rolling tonight. Portland falls to Boston 128-118. Blazers are still 4-2 on the road trip, and we'll be wrapping it up against the Thunder on Friday. Blazer fans, we'll talk to you on Friday. Have a great night.